And welcome to another episode of The Bandit Room. My name is Charles. I'm joined here in the studio today by Mr. Caleb.
Hello.
And Miss Amber Tabb.
Hello.
And our special guest, we always have a special guest, is Bev Carroll. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks.
Aggie
Pleasure
is
to be here.
out today. He's pleading the fifth with our attorney present. He's not able to talk today.
He wouldn't be the only one pleading it.
So how are you doing, Bev? It's
I'm
been
good.
a while.
It has been a while, Charles.
Yeah, so for listeners, Bev is an attorney. She's, full disclosure, she is an attorney for us as well, specializing in employment law, currently with the firm Morton and Gettys downtown here in Rock Hill. So what have you been up to? A lot of employment law keeping you busy these days?
It's incredibly busy right now.
Yeah.
From one thing to another, but it's been a very busy 2022, and it already started as a very busy 2023.
Yeah, awesome. Good things, bad things, I don't know. Sometimes if your lawyers are busy, it's not always a good thing.
For the clients, it's not always awesome. For me, it's awesome.
Yeah. Doing great. Now, we haven't spoken, I don't think, really much since you've made the transition over to Morton and Gettys, and you've been there for a few years now.
Yeah.
But we haven't. I don't physically see you that often.
Well, you moved.
Yeah, we moved
off of Main Street.
Yeah, we were just down the street originally. Tell us about that. So when we first got to know you, you were working at you were running your own firm. You've since made the switch to Morton and Gettys. Tell us about that transition process.
Well, the office that I maintained for a couple of years was kind of a transition from one firm to taking a break and kind of deciding what I wanted to joining Morton and Gettys in 2019. It's been wonderful. They're a wonderful group. We're very, very like-minded, civic interested, good lawyers, variety of services. So it's been a wonderful time there.
Nice. You save a little headache on not having to handle all the little details of running your own.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. That's always some headache.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, though. It was interesting that I had been at one point with a firm that had 1,800 lawyers.
Wow.
To a firm for me.
Yeah.
And so all of that preceded the year that I became South Carolina Bar President, and I could say that I understood what a solo practitioner was doing and to some degree what large firms were doing. So it gave me kind of real span.
Run the gambit as far as the different
exactly.
types of firms, everything from massive to individual. Awesome. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about your career path? Because we've met you, it's only in your recent history, but you've... tell us about your studies. You studied at, was it Winthrop and USC? Is that right?
Yeah, went to Winthrop undergraduate, and while I enjoyed it, I had never envisioned coming back to Rock Hill.
Gotcha. Are you from Rock Hill originally?
No, I'm from Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay, and you came up here just to go to college?
I came here to go to college, then left, and I actually taught school a bit between undergraduate and law school.
Oh, is that right?
In Great Falls, South Carolina.
Okay, interesting.
What
were you teaching?
Experience. History and coaching girls basketball.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it was wonderful. People
Gotcha.
in Great Falls, wonderful.
Nice.
Just one of the best experiences of my life. But I got a job offer.
You said that was between Winthrop and law school?
In law school.
How many years were you doing that?
A couple of years. I think 2-3 years between that time, yeah.
And then did you go full-time law school, or were you working
simultaneously? Oh, no, I went full-time. South Carolina has a full-time program, so... just anecdotally, I mentioned to my mother I might keep teaching, and she said, no, you're going to law school. Because I'd been talking about it since I was a child. Everybody has their Perry Mason story, that's the inspiration.
Okay, that's part of it. We're going to say what drew you to the field.
Nothing. I didn't know the first lawyer. My family didn't know the first lawyer. It was just... Justice Sotomayor always talks about that, that it was Perry Mason TV that she saw.
Yeah.
That's apparently what I saw, too.
Nice.
So...
Sort of an aspiration since childhood based on things like that,
exactly.
see it in TV portrayed and things like that.
Yeah.
Nice. And after... You graduated USC, so is that when you went to work for the big firm, or did you start in a few other
No, I started
places?
off with a solo practitioner and then joined a firm called Roddy Carpenter & White there in Rock Hill. And the Roddy name is a name still very prominent in Rock Hill. And
Right.
I work primarily with Bob Carpenter, who was just a legend also in terms of a well-known, very good attorney. And then we left to join another firm, Kennedy Cuppington, which was a Charlotte firm that merged with K&L Gates. So.
Okay. And you started your first job, was that 80s, 90s Rock Hill? Is that right?
81.
81. So
Yeah.
Rock Hill was a different place at that time.
It was a different place. It was a different place from the time I had finished school. I mean,
Yeah.
even in those couple of years, I mean, all kinds of things were happening then. There was really discussion. I don't know if all of you've heard that, but there was a roof over Main Street.
Right.
After I left and I came
You've seen
back.
it before and after.
Before and after and after and before. It was a different place. It's certainly a different place after this many years, but it's been a wonderful community to live in.
Nice. And how has your field changed? You've been in employment law for the most of your career. Is that correct, or is it
about
varied?
half of it primarily. I started off doing what's called insurance defense work. You represent companies that have insurance, and insurance carriers will engage you to help. So I started doing some employment law because clients were always asking about that. If you were handling a personal injury or workers' comp for them, they needed to know how some laws applied to them. Gotcha. So it just seemed like a good fit. Insurance company work was changing dramatically, and it seemed like a good fit. So I decided I'd really focus in on that, and eventually, got a specialization in it, and that's what I do that in business litigation.
You touched on it a little bit earlier. You've been involved in the South Carolina Bar Association, notably a president of the South Carolina Bar Association. For those who aren't familiar, give a little explanation as to what that is. Obviously, everybody's heard of the bar.
Yeah.
So you're president of the South Carolina Bar Association. So
what
does that entail?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you something interesting.
Yeah.
We don't call it an association. We just call it the South Carolina Bar.
The bar. It's just the bar.
And you can imagine that tickles a lot of people that we are all at the bar. At a bar meeting.
The potential jokes are...
Yeah. I've been involved in bar activities. Bob Carpenter, again, I mentioned, was really kind of a real push. He had been involved. In fact, he had been a bar president in the 70s, in the early 70s, and had encouraged my involvement in it. The bar in South Carolina, the members of the bar are all the lawyers in South Carolina. It's what we call a mandatory bar.
Gotcha.
You have to belong to the South Carolina Bar.
Gotcha.
So it's about 16,000 members, 16,000 lawyers, not all of them active, some of them, but a good number of them, and they're all across the state and doing everything, and it was really just a wonderful experience to be in that role.
Wow. So what sort of led you to become the president of the Bar Association? So I'm assuming you had to have been pretty involved with the bar years prior. So you said it's been how long you've been involved?
I'm in 41 years practicing law.
Gotcha.
So I probably got involved in the bar in some aspect on some committee within a couple of years. Mm-hmm. You go in cycles with your involvement. You may be involved in committees. You may be serving in some capacity, in a volunteer capacity. We have a lot of lawyers that locally are involved in mock trial, which is the mock trial that students participate in. There's just a variety of ways to get involved.
Gotcha.
And then sometimes you step away from bar activities because you're focusing on building your career.
Gotcha.
So I had been involved in committees, and the Bar Foundation, which is an Ely and Mosseri corporation that handles grants for nonprofits that provide legal services. So it just got me engaged in the bar again, and just started taking that road.
So there's all sorts of activities involved in this bar. So it's beyond. I'm sure everybody's familiar the exam that people have to take to become a licensed.
Yeah, we have
attorney.
nothing to do with the exam.
You have nothing to do with that. Okay.
The court runs the exam.
The court runs that. You're not deciding who becomes a lawyer.
Yeah, two things we point out. The bar is not. We don't have anything to do with the examination. Nor we do have anything to do with the discipline of lawyers. That's handled by the South Carolina Supreme Court.
Gotcha.
We're
Okay.
not involved in the disciplinary process.
Gotcha. So what is the overall focus?
It is to provide services to the lawyers and to the public in any
Gotcha.
way possible. It can be, again, lawyers in South Carolina have to do so many continuing legal education, so we have a very large CLE division, involvement in committees. Community things, like I said, the mock trial program. There's
Gotcha.
actually several student programs. You can volunteer to veterans groups to provide services at some of these nonprofits I mentioned.
Gotcha.
It's just a variety of things, and sometimes it's just to build relationships, people that you can call on or seek advice from.
Nice.
It's like so many of those
Yeah.
professional associations.
That's interesting. So what's it like when you say maintaining relationships and things like that? In your field, you're on a case. You've got an opposing lawyer. How do you maintain those relationships? You're working primarily in a relatively small town. Presumably, a lot of the times you're going to know the person who's representing the client on the other side. How do you maintain that?
You do, although my practice is probably more statewide, both, and I'm also licensed in North Carolina.
Gotcha.
So it's really driven by my clients, the businesses that I represent, and who you may have.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, at the heart of all of it, that you try to maintain a civility with one another. You know, I've heard time and again, and it's come up just recently again. It's the sort of situation where you each espouse your position, and then hopefully you can walk away and you can be civil to each other in doing so, and then walk away and be friends.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's hard.
Yeah.
Depends on who's on the other side, but I think I get better with it the older I get.
Yeah. Yeah. It's harder to imagine it from, I guess, if you were the client's perspective. You know, whoever's on the other side is either making a case against you or you're making a case against them, and it's just sort of like there's just a lot of animosity. But the attorneys you're there to do a job, represent your client, and
Well, you've really kind of hit on some things that it took me a while to recognize that clients didn't quite understand why lawyers could be civil to one another.
right.
I mean, you were supposed to be there advocating for them, and somehow you couldn't be nice to the other. But I learned great lessons from some very good lawyers, Bob included, but others, David White, others, that it didn't behoove you at all, and it wasn't in your client's best interest to make enemies with somebody else. We are all trying to provide services to our clients, and you just have to continue to remember that.
Now, you also received a key to the city of Rock Hill at some point.
I did.
When was that? When was that?
3 or 4 years ago, I think. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that was it Gettys that did it, or was that Eccles at that point?
It was John
It was
Gettys.
John, okay.
So a little bit of nepotism, I guess. I can't remember if I was working with his firm at that night or not.
Was that what was dangled in front of you to say, hey, come join our firm?
Wouldn't that be something? That was a nice surprise. It had to do with really some civic things that I had been involved in.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about that. So what kind of organizations are you involved with outside of your work?
Well, the organization I've been involved in the longest is Parks, Recreation and Tourism Commission.
Gotcha.
And that's an advisory commission group to the city council.
Gotcha.
And to the mayor. I have heard that when it first began, and it was one of the first citizen groups, I think, for parks around the state, and it was, again, those members at that time were actually coaching things, running things, setting the hours. Now we have a very large, competent professional staff, so the role of the commission is really advisory, to hear from the staff about things, to hear about new ideas that might come in terms of parks and recreation,
Gotcha.
and then to both share information with the council and provide them our opinions about what things need to be done.
Now, do you carry the key around with you, or do you?
Sure. I've got it right now.
What does it get you access to? What kind of?
It's sitting in my office.
Sitting in your office.
It's on a plaque
Yeah.
sitting in my office.
All right, fantastic. Does it get you secret access to anywhere?
Yeah, it does.
No,
It
no,
doesn't.
doesn't get you.
No, I get into the door every day.
Your keys, right?
Yeah,
There
but
you
I
go.
don't need that key.
Very good. An item that's recently in the news relating to employment law is that there was a recent proposal from the FTC to ban non-compete clauses in contracts. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's likely to be adopted, or do you think there's going to be kind of maybe like a watered-down version of this may get adopted?
Well, this is just a guess. I mean, first of all, I think many people were very surprised that they proposed this idea. Of a variety of employment-related matters that we need to concentrate on, that honestly would not have been at the top of my list. I mean, we need a complete revamping of the Fair Labor Standards, how wages are paid and
Right.
how
So-
things are done. But so I was surprised. I don't know. They're in a comment period right now. My own feeling is I don't think it'll go far. But I do believe that non-competes have benefit and have a need. Many
Yeah.
companies are investing in employees. They're training, they're introducing them to customers and clients. They're providing them valuable resources. So I think it's important to do it. I don't think you need to do it with every employee. And I think what's happened, the anecdotal story that you always hear is that people who are working at McDonald's are required to work for them, that they can't go to work for Burger King or they
Right.
can't go to work for somebody else. That's totally unnecessary. I mean,
Right.
to me, that just makes no sense. And I'm sorry to anybody who's having them do it. They may have reasons they can explain. But if you're learning a skill, or if you're meeting a group of clients, if you're gaining information that's proprietary to that business, I think a non-compete confidentiality provisions are essential.
Yeah, yeah. That's what it seems to me as well. I mean, especially if you're in more of a unique business and you're giving somebody I don't know, maybe it defines by how specific your set of skills is that you're getting at this particular place. Because, like you said, if it's something in the service industry, almost of any kind, it seems like it'd be hard to mandate that, even though I was shocked to see that, was it 18% of workers are under some form of non-compete?
Yeah, that was surprising to me. And I will say that the courts, I think universally across the United States, are not in favor of them, meaning that they will strictly construe them. If you cannot define the reasonable basis and also being limited by time and territory, then courts are not going to let you enforce them. So I think it's being pretty well controlled. Certainly there's some expense sometimes in litigating them, but I have clients that make good decisions of when they want to seek to enforce them or not. But I do think they have an important role in business.
If you were to give advice to somebody considering your profession, you've got 40 years of experience in it, what are some things that you've either learned along the way or sort of standard bits of advice that you give to somebody looking into this field?
Well, I have said many times I feel very fortunate that I fell into this. This was something that I thought at apparently 5 years old, this is what I wanted to do, and it turned out to be exactly what I wanted to do. And I've been very fortunate with that. I continue to believe that a law degree is a door opener. You may not practice law a day in your life, but the training that you go through to become a lawyer, it's a it's a door opener. I think, to have a law degree. I have classmates, other people I know that never practiced. They're in business. They've gone into real estate. They've done a lot of things. I think they would tell you their degree has helped them. It's been a really rewarding experience for me. And anybody who asks me, I'll say that to them. I know some people don't have that same experience, and maybe they didn't make the right choice. I don't know, but I say give it a try. If you have any desire, give it a try.
Fantastic. And what are some tips that you would give a business owner to make sure that they are ahead of the curve when it comes to employment law. So, what are typical pitfalls you may see? Is whether it's not having a good employee handbook, not having solid set structures in place.
I think the first thing that people ought to do, and I know that, again, it sounds like a commercial, is consult an employment lawyer.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about opening a business, engage or talk with an employment lawyer and also a tax lawyer or somebody with tax knowledge. How you set up your business is going to be very important. Even as a small employer, there are going to be a lot of employment laws that are going to be applicable to you. For instance, with one employee, you're bound by the Fair Labor Standards Act, the federal law, in terms of overtime or things of that nature. In South Carolina, regardless of your size, you're subject to complying with E-Verify, dealing with immigration law.
Yep.
One of the newest laws passed has to do with the right of nursing mothers.
Yep.
And you have to provide that if you have one employee. So those sorts of things, I think that, an hour conversation with someone would be very helpful. I know that people believe the expense is, it's just too expensive, but I more than once, I've told people it would have been worth it if you considered it.
Right.
You set up a business, you can do it online,
Right.
But you don't have an operating agreement to say how it's going to be run. If there's more than one of you, what if you have a dispute? So just having a sit down with an attorney as a consultant and somebody that you can talk with.
Right.
I kind of might view it as kind of your yearly checkup with your doctor.
Yeah, it's true. You got to make sure you're staying healthy, and the cost of it could be the entire business if you don't have the right advice.
Yeah, I hope that I haven't seen that happen to people, but I think they could have avoided things that are very costly to them.
Right.
Had they just taken a little bit of time and spent something to have that consultation.
You hinted a little bit at of the things you would fix in the field of employment law, fair labor standards. You said what you think was probably one of the most overdue for a change. Do you think that would be the most needed for an overhaul in the field of employment law?
Well, I think that it doesn't capture today's economy.
Right.
The idea that the premise behind the Fair Labor Standards was really kind of just twofold: a minimum wage and payment for overtime. Well, unfortunately, they haven't had a lot of impact on minimum wage. We know what's driving that, but the minimum wage is still $7.25 here.
Right.
The market has driven it, but it hasn't been that. And then the idea that you can't make more money because you don't fit certain categories. For instance, you can't be salaried unless you fit certain qualifications, what we call it a two-step process. And I mean, there are lots of industries. One example comes to mind. Installers, whether it's phone or security equipment, can make a lot of money, but if they're driven and having to be paid overtime, these employers are not going to give them some of the benefits they would. Hey, if you add a camera to the program or something else, and that was actually a case I had with a client one time. So it turned out that all the installers were going to make less money because they were going to have to go to hourly rate and then be paid overtime. And so they were no longer going to be able to make $10 if they added this and this and this, and they were working more hours. So it just doesn't capture today's economy. It's not. It just doesn't recognize it at all. That would be I think one of the most important to try to deal with. Independent contractors, which is kind of a part of that too, is another field that's really difficult.
It keeps coming up with the gig economy, all these types of roles that are a big thing now. So
and we all know what the issue is in independent contractors, that the reason people want to engage them is they're not having to pay some taxes, not having to pay some benefits, that sort of stuff. But again, what we lose out on is, it's not being monitored very carefully. So are people paying their fair share of taxes and everything else?
Yep.
But and that's no dig on an independent contractor or anything else. It's just it doesn't capture what's real today in our economy.
Gotcha.
Express Tax Exempt is now tax990.com. We changed our name to make it even easier to recognize us, but everything you know and love about Express Tax Exempt is still here. Tax990.com still provides you with easy Form 990 filing, free schedules, great customer support, and much more. Learn more at tax990.com.
Amber, you have any questions?
I do. Mine are going to be really hard. What's your favorite kind of food?
Hard transition.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
See?
Yeah.
Caught her off guard.
Unfortunately, all kinds of food are my favorite kind. I'll tell you, I still love fried chicken more than anything. I mean, I can do it in chicken tenders now, but there's nothing better in my book.
Where you have a
Watermelon.
favorite spot for that? around
Yeah,
here?
favorite restaurant or favorite spot for fried chicken in Rock Hill or Columbia.
Well, my favorite chicken right now is Publix.
Yeah, they do
Tenders. I love
they do
their
a heck of a
tenders.
job, yeah.
I love their tenders. Probably I love Counter restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
I love Napa. And I think two very wonderful restaurants, and got them as excited as I can be. It's what it's going to be down at the old Rock Hill Printing and Finishing site at the Pump House, or whatever they call it. Not the Pump House. What are they calling?
The new one, I can't think of it, but you're thinking of the
Powerhouse.
Powerhouse.
The
okay.
Powerhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah, boy, what a lineup of places they're going to have
Yeah, I'm
there.
excited about
They
that.
just announced the steakhouse recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Okay, I have another question. What do you do outside of work? What's your favorite hobby?
Well, that may be the reason I'm still practicing law, because I have a great hobby.
You don't have a backup.
It might be time to find one.
I love sports. The most fun thing I've done in recent years is a group of us bought season tickets to the women Gamecocks.
Oh,
And
nice.
we
cool.
go down to games. I don't go to absolutely every one,
Yeah.
but that has been the most wonderful time in the world. One, the crowd is so diverse,
Yeah.
Yeah.
old and young and white and black and gender-wise. It's just, and everybody's
Yeah.
just having a wonderful
Fun.
time.
Yeah.
And it's been fun, and they can really play basketball.
How
That's
are they
fun.
doing this year? Are they
Oh, they're undefeated. They're number one in the nation.
perfect?
Duh.
So, hey, who doesn't want to be one of that winning team?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So,
If you had to pick any character in a book, movie, or TV show who's most similar to you, who would you choose and why? I don't know how I would answer this question, so it's a tough
you
one.
do know how you
I
would
do not.
answer?
I do
Oh,
not.
gosh. I don't
I do not.
either.
We could switch to favorite character in a book, TV, or movie show,
That could, if it was easier.
if that's easier.
I don't see myself in any of those, but I love John Grisham books. So it's, I read a lot of books about lawyers.
Yeah.
Fiction.
Yeah.
But I thought he does as great a job as any as capturing topics that are very timely. He seems to hit. I read recently that he aims now for one book a year.
Yeah. He just pumps them out.
But they're most timely. I mean, and some of them are just like eye-opening. One of them was about, in effect, fixing a court, which has been a concern of many people, of how you fix courts and the outside interests that come in and influence judicial elections. He's hit on some incredibly good topics. So
do you feel like...
I just wish I could write like him. That's what I wish.
I don't know. I feel like the more that you learn about a topic and then you read a book about that topic, so you've been in law for 40 years, it sounds like he's pretty good at writing about lawyers and things fairly accurately, but...
What is there a movie or TV show or something that you feel like irritates you as an attorney? Like
unrealistic?
Most of the lawyer shows are unrealistic. But I mean, what can you do in like 42 minutes. Isn't that how long an hour show's supposed to last?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that somehow you'll go and see somebody on a Monday and you're going to be trying the case on Friday is ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't happen that way. That's probably the most aggravating thing with clients is that their cases take so long.
Yeah.
You know, the pandemic backed up our courts dramatically on the criminal front and the civil front, so doesn't happen that. Just, you know, the question all the time, you know, they have to answer yes or no, Your Honor. Well, that's not the way it works. The judge is always going to let you explain your answer, but it just doesn't fit a TV show well.
Right.
So I probably cussing at the TV as much as I am enjoying the show.
It seems like there's almost always like there's a judge that allows everything in a TV show or movie. Where it's like,
exactly.
I'll allow it.
It's just ridiculous one way or the other. But I still watch them.
Yeah.
You know, just to be entertained.
Yeah.
How about Perry Mason? Do you still watch?
Every so often I'll turn it on and just kind of laugh at. I mean, I can't imagine why in the world, but so many people. Somebody told me the other day, and another lawyer said, "Oh, well, you know, it had to be Perry Mason that I watched on TV." Why do we all think that? I think he might have been the only lawyer on TV.
Yeah.
Wild.
That time. Yeah.
And they had a neat conclusion. He
It's
always
never-
solved it,
Yeah.
you know, he left everybody else in the dust. So it was like, well, you got to see somebody who really accomplished something every week.
It's never My Cousin Vinny.
I'll tell you, that's a great. That movie just makes me laugh. Now and you know, Judge Joe Anderson, who is a federal judge here in South Carolina. That's his favorite movie, and he has done CLEs, and they're wonderful. He builds them out and uses portions of what happened in that movie to really. He does a great continuing education program on that, and it's on that movie.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
That's funny. I'm just like imagining attorneys learning about law through My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, it's
That's
funny.
You already talked about growing up. One of the questions was dream job when you were growing up. So
Doing it.
You're doing it. Doing it. Did
Yep.
it. Mm-hmm. Do you have a role model?
No, probably. I mean, would be my mother, who was, I thought, a very hardworking. She was born in Germany, came here after the war, really adapted so well and learned this country so well that she was just hardworking and gently pushed us along, my brother and I, along. So that she would be it.
Worst advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, God.
Or could you just, in general, think of bad advice that you hear in life, you know, a general...
Well, I think everybody would
things,
say anybody who's discouraged from doing something they want to do or try. I mean, especially if you're young. I just think trying to get people to do or not do something that they want to try. Life is, you know, well, life can be short, but life is long too. You got some opportunities to do some other things for a while. So,
I don't know. My son wants to start a YouTube channel. I'm like, son, listen.
You're going to hold him back?
Listen to me.
how old is it?
There are millions of YouTubers. You have to have a real job.
Follow your passion. You'll never work a day in your life.
Oh, gosh. I'm trying.
How old is he?
12.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, he might be a hit.
I know. I know.
It's amazing to me that what you're seeing on some of these things now.
Yeah.
The digital there's money to be made if you can do it right.
He starts now. By the time he gets good,
You might want to just be his agent. Don't discourage him. Just decide to be his agent. Sign a contract with him immediately and be his agent. He might be a big star.
That's funny. He might. He might.
Here, okay, I'll just do one more. What's one thing you'd love to be an expert at?
I don't know. I'd like to think that every day I get better at being an employment lawyer, whether now the state says I have certification to be an expert, but I know I don't know all the answers. So, no, it really is something I learn every day, though. I mean, there's something new, and there's always something new that I haven't heard, and I think that's what's kept me engaged in this career so long. It's something new every day.
Yeah, never stop learning. Awesome.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
In Aggie's office.
There's something new every day.
That's our motto.
There's something new every
That
day.
is Aggie right there.
That's it.
Never stop learning.
Yes.
Awesome. Any final thoughts? Thank you for coming by
Oh,
today.
no, it's
Yeah.
delightful. Beautiful facility. If any of you come by, they'll show you around.
Yeah. Just let anybody in.
Especially the key to the city.
Yes, key to the city. She got in right
Yeah.
away. It was weird. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
You're quite welcome. It's
Stick
great
around next
fun.
week and see what we talk about on the Bandit Room. Thank you.
Bandit Room is a production of Span Enterprises, located in sunny Rock Hill, South Carolina. We've been developing, supporting, and growing successful IRS e-filing and business management solutions since 2010. Go to spanenterprises.com now to learn more. The views and opinions expressed in the Bandit Room are those of the guests, and do not necessarily reflect or state the opinions of Span Enterprises. No information should be considered as tax, legal, or other professional advice.